Hi everyone, and thank you for joining. I think that my audio is okay, but it never hurts a confirmation from you guys that you can hear me. And oh my god, I'm sorry guys, I know it's really late, it's like 1:30 here in the UK. I just couldn't sleep. I can't sleep. I usually go to sleep in the morning, so I had to find myself something to do. And I didn't really plan on doing this live, but I went through some more stuff online and I found something. Oh my god, it's just shocking. I don't think I've ever come across this before since I've been doing my research in the Madeleine Mccann case. Seriously, oh, now a lot of things do make sense, and I'll get into that in a minute. I'm just waiting for more of you to join. And in the meantime, by the way, it's not even related, but you know, I do have TikTok accounts. I don't know how many I have, but I have, well, more than 3 actually. But anyway, one of my TikTok accounts just got suspended until 2033. 10-year suspension, because apparently one of my videos broke the community guidelines, which didn't even happen because I'm always very careful not to break any community guidelines. And I didn't even know that my account is suspended. I found out by mistake and I made appeals and I didn't get anything back from them yet, and I have no idea what I did wrong, because as far as I know, I didn't do anything wrong. Hi JD, thank you for joining. And yeah, before we get started, I know that's not related at all, the TikTok account suspension, whatever. But before we get started, I just want to give my usual disclaimer, just for legal purposes really. Everything that I'm going to tell you in this video is already found in the public domain, and I don't mean any disrespect, and I'm just sharing it with you guys what I found. So yeah, that's that. And I'm pleased to let you know that in this live, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to share my screen with you, so you can see it as well as I go through reading the articles that I found. Also, apologies for the line which you see. If you, I don't know if you see it, I do see it on my screen. Yeah, my camera is damaged, like I said in my other live, and yeah, I think it's got a crack, possibly, probably. Okay, it's going to be kind of a long read. And before I start showing you what I found, I just want to let you know that I tried my best to find the second book that that Amaral published. Oh my god, I forgot his name. Gonzalo Amaral, yes, that he published. Enough with the Lies, I think it's called. I tried to find it, I couldn't find it. I only found a copy on eBay, but that's in Portuguese and it's around £20. So by the time I'll have enough money to buy it, maybe it's not going to be available anymore. But I was thinking that if I will be able to buy it, I'm gonna buy it in Portuguese, and maybe I can find an online version, and even if it's in Portuguese, I might be able to find an AI which can translate the copy into English, so we can have a look what he says in his latest book. Right, okay. Since there are more of you who joined than are watching me, hi to everyone and thank you for joining. So what I want to show you today, which I'm going to share as well, is going to be on the screen. This is from Jerry McCann's blogs. Again, I'm going to read the note which is here. This site does not belong to the McCanns, it belongs to Pamalam. So this is the Jerry McCann's blogs.co.uk website, and I came across this very interesting article. Well, there are more articles actually, and let me see if I can actually remove myself. Let me see if I can do it so you can see better. Oh no, Okay, hold on, the other way around. Okay, that's it, right. Hopefully you can see it now. JD is saying it's easy to translate from Portuguese to English, Cat, buy it. Like I said, I will try to see if I will still find it available when I'll be able to afford to buy it, because at the moment even £5 is a big deal, and I know that all of us are in the same situation as it is right now. Right, so if you are not aware what WikiLeaks is, you know Assange and what happened to him, and he had this website where he would leak all of these personal information that was shared to him anonymously or otherwise, and as far as I'm aware he is in prison at the minute. And this was released by WikiLeaks. Unfortunately, either it's me, I can't access WikiLeaks website, or the website has been taken down. I'm not sure. I did find a couple of articles from a lot of news outlets in the UK when I went on Google, but again the links take me back to WikiLeaks, which I can't access. So WikiLeaks released a diplomatic cable from September 2007 which reveals that the US ambassador to Portugal was told by his British counterpart that British police had helped to develop evidence against Madeleine McCann's parents. Now, if you are not aware what a cable means in WikiLeaks, it's kind of like a blog post, if you wish. So basically they get this information and they create cables where they release the information. So this is basically, long story short, it's a lot of technical explanation, but that's the long story short, if you will, like a post on a website. And I believe, as it says here, this is from the 9th of December 2010, Guardian News blog extract. Several people suggested searching for information on Madeleine McCann, the British girl who went missing. For example, she is indeed mentioned in at least 2 cables from the US Embassy in Lisbon. No clues to her fate, unfortunately, but some interesting observations on the involvement of British police, which we'll relay once we've checked them out. And the next article is from Monday, 13th of December 2010 from The Guardian. Summary. On September 21st, newly arrived British Ambassador Alexander Wykeham Ellis informed Ambassador Hoffman that European concerns over Russia's aggressive energy policies and the need for market competition were the driving forces behind the third EU energy liberalization package. He suggested that Russia's position with its neighbors was guided by a self-proclaimed right to do what he wants when he wants in its own neighborhood. Regarding Robert Mugambe's participation in the proposed EU-Africa summit, Ellis said the UK would not discourage other member states from participating if PM Brown stayed away. I know that this is not related to the McCann, but I just want to read the article from beginning to end. He doubted, however, if the Dutch, Irish or Swedish would attend in Brown's absence. Ellis also noted that it was the British police that developed the current evidence against Madeleine McCann's parents in the high-profile case that has captured international attention. He informed the ambassador that former British ambassador John Buck had accepted a private sector position at a UK gas company and that his departure had nothing to do with bilateral issues. The Madeleine McCann case. Madeleine McCann's disappearance in the south of Portugal in May 2007 has generated international media attention with controversy surrounding the Portuguese-led police investigation and the actions of Madeleine's parents. Without delving into the details of the case, Ellis admitted that the British police had developed the current evidence against the McCann parents, and he stressed that authorities from both countries were working cooperatively. He commented that the media frenzy was to be expected and was acceptable as long as government officials keep their comments behind closed doors. Now, please don't forget what we've just read here, because it's very important. So we have at some point at the beginning of this investigation the British police, who actually believed as well that Madeleine McCann's parents, Kate and Jerry, were involved in her disappearance. Now let's carry on. And I'm going to try to skip whatever is not related to Madeleine McCann, just so we don't, you know, drag it for more than necessary. So, EU Justice and Home Affairs ministers met informally in Lisbon, October the 1st, the 2nd. An embassy officer attended to follow discussion of such topics as the elimination of land and sea travel barriers in December, the establishment of a counter-narcotics analysis and operations center, the submission of a package of counter-terrorism proposals by Vice President Frattini in November, the submission of a package of border control proposals by Frattini in February, and the establishment of a missing children alert system based on the US Amber Alert. Missing Children Alert. Frattini used the well-known case of Madeleine McCann to lay out his intention to develop an EU-wide alert system for missing children. He specifically and repeatedly mentioned the Amber Alert system in the US as the model that the EU needed to copy. In addition, the e-Justice portal, according to Costa, will include a list of missing children and direct users to appropriate Hague Convention resources. Now, as you can see, here comes another article from The Guardian. Here is I think this is the original article. UK police develop case against McCann's. Still Monday, 13th of December 2010. British police helped to develop evidence against Madeleine McCann's parents as they were investigated by Portuguese police as formal suspects in the disappearance of their daughter. The US ambassador to Portugal was told by his British counterpart in September 2007. The meeting between US Ambassador Al Hoffman and the British Ambassador Alexander Wykeham Ellis took place a fortnight after Kate and Jerry McCann were formally declared arguidos or suspects by the Portuguese police. The McCanns have said that there was absolutely no evidence to implicate them in Madeleine's disappearance whatsoever. In a diplomatic cable marked confidential, the US ambassador reported, without delving into the details of the case, Ellis admitted that the British police had developed the current evidence against the McCann parents, and he stressed that authorities from both countries were working cooperatively. The comments attributed to the ambassador appear to contradict the widespread perception at the time that Portuguese investigators were the driving force behind the treatment of the McCanns as suspects in the case. The disclosure comes as WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange returns to court in an attempt to secure bail following his arrest last week at the request of Swedish authorities who want to interview him over allegations of sexual assault. A number of other cables released by the whistleblower's website shed new light on aspects of the financial crisis. And I'm not going to go through the revelations from the financial crisis. They are mentioned here. I'm going to jump straight to what's related to Madeleine McCann. In one of two cables referring to the McCann case, the US ambassador notes, Madeleine McCann's disappearance in the south of Portugal in May 2007 has generated international media attention with controversy surrounding the Portuguese-led police investigation and the actions of Madeleine's parents. He reported that his British counterpart thought that the media frenzy was to be expected and was acceptable as long as government officials keep their comments behind closed doors. It was not until 21st of July 2008 that the Portuguese authorities shelved their investigation and lifted the arguido status of the McCanns. Responding to the contents of the cable, a spokesman for the McCanns told The Guardian, "This is an entirely historic note that is more than 3 years old." Subsequently, Kate and Jerry had their arguido status lifted, with the Portuguese authorities making it perfectly clear that there was absolutely no evidence to implicate them in Madeleine's disappearance whatsoever. To this day, they continue to work tirelessly on the search for their daughter, cooperating when appropriate with both the Portuguese and British authorities. And this is very interesting to me. with the Portuguese authority making it perfectly clear that there was absolutely no evidence to implicate them in Madeleine McCann's disappearance whatsoever. As far as we know, and I think I'm right, Kate and Jerry McCann, they were never cleared in the Portuguese investigation. So I'm not sure what that's all about. But anyway, let's move on. British authorities had substantial involvement in the investigation launched after Madeleine disappeared, where the McCanns had left their 3 children in bed before joining friends at a nearby restaurant in the Algarve village of Praia da Luz. At least one British sniffer dog was used in the investigation, and according to reports was said to have picked up the scent of a dead body in the apartment. In 2008, when a dossier detailing investigations by Portuguese police was made public, it emerged British scientists had warned that DNA tests on a sample from the McCann's holiday hire car were inconclusive days before they were made suspects. It's known that the Forensic Science Service analyzed material sent to Britain by Portuguese police. A spokesman for Leicestershire Police said their involvement in the investigation was limited to coordinating UK-based inquiries on behalf of the Portuguese authorities. Now, I think we all know the story with the Forensic Science Lab and what happened there, and how the evidence was mixed up, and I'm not gonna say it, but I think it's quite obvious what happened there. And I've already covered this previously in more of my videos. And here is another article, in this article it's an interview between a reporter and Gonzalo Amaral by TVI24, and this was on 14th of December 2010, and I'm going to give credit here thanks to Joanna Moraes for translation. Gonzalo Amaral, the former Judiciary Police Inspector, stated this Monday that it is strange that it is necessary for an ambassador to speak about the evidence for some veracity to be given as to the responsibility of the parents in Madeleine's disappearance, and that he looks forward for WikiLeaks divulging the satellite imagery, reports Lusa. I accompany the investigation. I know what is there, and I know what still needs to be done, and I also know there is responsibility in the disappearance. I have no doubts about that, said Gonzalo Amaral, the former coordinator of the investigation. The author of the book Medi, The Truth of the Lie, spoke to the news agency Lusa after the WikiLeaks site revealed the confidential cable from the British ambassador in Lisbon from 2007. Admitting to his US counterpart in the Portuguese capital that it was the British police that had found evidence against Madeleine's parents. However, Gonzalo Amaral insists that it was not the British police who had arrived at those conclusions. I don't know what evidence the British ambassador was referring to when he spoke with the US ambassador. Now that there are strong indications as to the responsibility of parents, there are, and they were gathered by Portuguese police in cooperation with the British police, he assured. Gonzalo Amaral also expects for WikiLeaks to be able to get the long-awaited for satellite images. Meanwhile, the McCann spokesman Clarence Mitchell played down these revelations, considering that the cable in question, which was also published in the British newspaper The Guardian, was only an entirely historic note. Okay, so this is a transcript, a translation made by Joanna Moraes from the interview, so the questions and answers. Pedro Mourinho is, I believe, the reporter from Portuguese 24/7 news channel, and Gonzalo Amaral, we know who he is. So Pedro is asking, Gonzalo Amaral, former inspector of the Judiciary Police and author of the book on the Medi case, is with us live on the Midnight News. A very good evening to you, Dr. Gonzalo Amaral. Gonzalo Amaral is saying good evening. Pedro is asking, is there any novelty for you in the documents now released by WikiLeaks? No, in reality, the only news is the document disclosure itself, since, as for the evidence, the indicia, that is in the process. The cooperation and collaboration with the English police is public knowledge and is in the process. The results are there, therefore there isn't anything new. So for you, it is a news that it was the British police that found the evidence that would have incriminated Madeleine's parents. No, I didn't say that, Gonzalo says. It's not news with regard to the evidence. Now, as to the proof held by the British police, I don't know what they are referring to. There was cooperation and collaboration. The evidence and indicia are in the process. Thus, I don't know. Someone should say what the evidence is. Perhaps someone from the British police should say it. All the same, it was the cooperation between the British and Portuguese police that arrived at the proof that is in the process. As someone that knows the process, as an inspector involved in the investigation, coordinator of the investigation, don't you know what evidence specifically the British ambassador was referring to? He could only be referring to the evidence and indicia that are in the process. I'm not seeing any other. If there is other evidence, it would be strange for the British police to not have revealed it at the time. The reference made in the last hours, Dr. Gonzalo Amaral, was in particular to the evidence that had been obtained by the dogs brought from the UK that were able to find cadaver scent in the McCann's car. Could that be the evidence? There are several indications. The information that is in the process results in other evidence, and therefore there is a set of evidence that is in the process, and that is probably what is being referred to. It's unfortunate that the process is archived, but perhaps this note might enable the reopening of the inquest and the resumption of the investigation until the truth is established, the material truth, the complete truth, for justice to be made. How was the relationship between the British and Portuguese police forces? Was it a good relationship, or, as the British media sustained for a certain period of time during the summer of 2007, was it a tense one and of great rivalry? No, it was an excellent relationship of cooperation. We often had lunch and dinner together. We had various meetings, so there was already friendship between colleagues. It was people who were involved in an investigation. There wasn't any tension, as it was stated. Would it have been possible to go further in gathering evidence after what took place in September 2007 or not? As I said before, the investigation is an investigation that is interrupted, an investigation that needs to be concluded. I believe it's possible to make progress if it wasn't for lack of political will. Now, with political will, based on this note, which is only a note, as you said, but remains an important note, nevertheless, between two ambassadors, from one ambassador to the US State Department, that must have the weight that it has. Hopefully now it will also be disclosed, those photos, those satellite images that we believe to be in the possession of the US authorities, that we, the Portuguese police, mentioned first and also requested a request that was denied to us. In your understanding, what could those satellite images reveal? They can reveal who was the person that carried the child on that night on its way to the beach. According to an Irish couple's statement with an alleged 80% certainty, it was Gerald McCann himself. That could be the confirmation of that Irish couple's statement. And those images exist? We believe that yes. In fact, the McCann couple themselves said a few months ago that they also searched for them, that they don't exist. Someone else later stated that they don't exist. It's possible that the site that has divulged the cable might also be able to release those images. That would be interesting. So what do you think, guys? Do you think that these images exist, the satellite images? Because I don't think that there would be a mention of satellite images if they wouldn't exist. Because what's the point of, you know, getting them, of mentioning satellite images if they didn't exist in the first place? And I'm wondering, what do those satellite images show that they've just kind of disappeared and access was denied? That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. I couldn't find anything on those satellite images, and it's the first I'm hearing of it. It's the first I'm hearing of a lot of things in this on this page. Okay, let's carry on. So the reporter is asking, in your opinion, if they exist, why weren't they yet revealed? Well, probably because they are a secret of state somewhere. In fact, the whole investigation was a state secret in England. I remind you that there is documentation in that sense referring that it is a state secret. We do not understand why it's considered as a state secret. In question is the disappearance and the likely death of a child, and we still fail to understand why it's considered a state secrecy. You have spoken before about the political will. Do you consider that there was a connivance of the British government with the McCann couple, knowing that the London authorities, and at least we now have that certainty, were indeed aware of the evidence uncovered by the police of their own country? What I want to ask you, in your opinion, in the scope of this document, is if we can understand a little bit better the manner in which the McCanns left the country. I apologize for stating the obvious, but they have left the country by airplane, and they were well received back in England. What we became increasingly aware was the political influence of the intervention of the British Prime Minister at the time, Gordon Brown, of the conversations that he allegedly had with our own Prime Minister in October at the Lisbon summit. If they indeed spoke on the subject or not, we weren't there to listen. Some say they did, others say they didn't. But a fact remains, and this was the result. There was a point that the British police officers working on the case had to sign a document as if they belonged to the secret services, requesting their confidentiality so they wouldn't speak about the case. Thus, from then on, and with other elements that would be too lengthy for us to be detailing here now, remains no doubt that a political intervention practically archived the case. This is mind-blowing. A state secret? What can be a state secret with the disappearance of Madeleine Mccann? Don't you find that weird? A state secret. JD is saying, I don't think they do. Satellite photos exist. So you think that the photos exist? Or you don't think they exist? Or maybe they existed and they don't anymore? I don't know, it's just so weird. I just find it interesting. I don't think that these photos would be mentioned if they wouldn't exist to begin with. I'm not sure, I don't know. But it's the first time hearing of this. And also state secret, and also the police, they had to sign a document. And we also know that when Jerry and Kay McCann, they returned back to the UK on an airplane, they were escorted from the airport to their home in black cars, which as far as I'm aware, they were secret services or something like that. So it kind of, you know, makes sense what is written here. Okay, so the reporter is carrying on. Of the British and of the Portuguese government, the case went to the Portuguese General Attorney's Office, who published a statement saying that they had not found any indicia in the process, something that we find very strange. I recall that the decision made by the appellate court on October 19th of this year, which lifted the banning of the book that I've authored, Mad in the Truth of the Lie, suggests that with the indicia that exist in the process, the opinion of the public ministry to archive the case could have been another if the prosecutors were different. That means that something exists there in the process. I have no doubt that the magistrates, the appellate judges, have read the process. Do you believe that this document, this note now revealed by WikiLeaks, can indeed change something as to the process? You have already said during this interview that you hoped for that to happen, but do you truly believe that that will take place? This matter has evolved step by step. We cannot use this document as a flag, the knowledge of this note as a victory. Let's put it in this way. It does not mean an immediate reopening of the case. However, I do believe that we are walking towards that goal, that finally the reconstruction of the facts may take place with the couple and with their friends if they so wish and if they are willing to return to Portugal. You spoke of victory. Do you believe that this will change the perception that people have about the Medi case? The perception that I have, as far as the perception of people go, is that the judiciary police has worked. The judiciary police was able to reach some conclusions, important conclusions, that the process needs to go on. The investigation has to continue, and as we have previously spoken here today, the process was archived for political reasons. That is the perception that people have. Gonzalo Amaral, former inspector of the Judiciary Police, author of the book Medi, The Truth of the Lie, about the Madeleine Mccann case, live on this Midnight News edition, after tonight, when another confidential document was released by WikiLeaks. Is the only document that makes a reference to the Medi case, an exchange between the British and North American ambassadors in Lisbon, where the British ambassador has confirmed that the British government had knowledge of the evidence that would incriminate Madeleine McCann's parents. Meanwhile, the McCann spokesman, Clarence Mitchell, fully depreciated this revelation. Contacted tonight by the news agency Lusa, he said that the cable is something from the past, an historical document more than 3 years old, and which he added therefore has no substance. And this was, I'm not sure if it was the full interview between the reporter and Gonzalo Amaral, but this is what's here on this website, and it's very interesting. JD, yes, I agree with you. Before I carry on, I just want to check this article because I don't want to keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Okay, so this one I've already read information. McCann's lawyer opposes, oh yes, McCann's lawyer opposes the reopening of the process, 14th of December 2010. Thanks to Astro for translation. Rogerio Alves, the McCann couple's lawyer, has told TSF that there is no new data in the documents that were revealed by WikiLeaks that would justify the reopening of the process. The McCann couple's lawyer in Portugal, Rogerio Alves, has said in a statement to TSF that he opposes the reopening inquiry into the disappearance of Madeleine in Lagos in the Algarve in 2007. At stake is a telegram from the North American embassy that was revealed by WikiLeaks, which indicates that it was the English police that presented the evidence that led to the McCann couple to be made arguidos. The telegram, which is cited by British newspaper The Guardian, describes a conversation between the ambassadors of the United Kingdom and the USA in Portugal shortly after Kate and Jerry McCann were made arguidos. Nonetheless, Rogerio Alves considered that these suspicions from the English authorities add nothing new to the process. That information is completely useless. It only contains a reference to a piece of evidence that the public ministry and the PJ considered to be totally useless, which consisted of a couple of dogs that, having barked but being naturally unable to depose in a courtroom, would constitute some sort of indication against the child's parents, he said. Again, trying to discredit the dog's findings, I assume. To open the process, yes, when that contributes to finding out where the child is and what happened to her. But to open the process, no, when it is to review what was already seen by the PJ and by the public ministry, that correctly considered those indications to be absurd and inconsistent. Rogelio Alves added, justifying that nobody in a democratic state can be taken to court based on dogs barking. That is absurd. Gonzalo Amaral has a different opinion. In a statement, he considered that there had been political interference in the process, and therefore he asked the public ministry to reopen it. Now, isn't it interesting? I was just thinking now about, remember a bit earlier in this life, I was reading what Gonzalo Amaral was saying about the judge when his book was not banned anymore. So I believe that at the time, Kate and Jerry McCann were suing him for defamation or something like that. So Gonzalo's words were something to the likes of that the judge probably read all the documentation and his decision was based on the evidence that he has read, which means that what Gonzalo Amaral said in his book had some kind of truth, and that would be the only way that the judge wouldn't accept that the McCanns were defamed by Gonzalo Amaral's book. As in, from a lot of documents there is evidence pointing to some kind of truth to what Gonzalo Amaral said in his book. That's my thought. Now you let me know what you think. Okay, let's move on with the next bit, but again I'm going to read the next bit here so we don't repeat ourselves. This one is written again by Lusa, Cristina Cardoso, 14th of December 2010, and thanks to Astro for translation. Lisbon, November 13. The Attorney General's office considers that there are no new credible and relevant facts in order to reopen the investigation related to Madeleine McCann. In a reply that was sent to Lusa agency, the Attorney General's office recalls that it has been repeatedly stated that the inquiry may be reopened if new, credible and relevant facts appear. Nonetheless, so far all that has been known are opinions, abstract theories, digressions, baseless reasoning and publicity maneuvers, which is not enough to reopen the inquiry, the note reads. A telegram from the USA Embassy in Lisbon, dated September 2007 and released on Monday, mentions the disappearance of the English child in May that year, pointing out that it was the English police that discovered evidence against the parents. Another article here, this time is from a British media, from the Daily Mail, by Vanessa Allen, 14th of December 2010. So I'm going to skip the first two paragraphs here because it kind of repeats itself. So we are talking about the secret meeting which was leaked on WikiLeaks. The previously secret meeting took place on September 21st, 2007. 2 weeks after Portuguese police named Kate and Jerry McCann as arguidos, or formal suspects in their daughter's disappearance. The leaked cable has raised fresh questions about the extent of British police involvement in the Portuguese investigation. Kate and Jerry have won a series of liable payouts from newspapers over suggestions they were involved in their daughter's disappearance. But the leaked cables suggest British police were actively involved in helping to build a case against them. The couple believe the decision to name them as arguidos jeopardized the hunt for their daughter because it may have stopped potential witnesses from coming forward with information, and it forced them to endure an agonizing 10-month wait until Portuguese police admitted they had found no evidence against them and shelved the case. It's clear why the case was shelved from everything that I've read previously to this, and also the Portuguese police never cleared them as suspects. The case was shelved because of political pressure, in my opinion. British police have always insisted they were responsible only for coordinating inquiries in Britain at the request of the Portuguese authorities. But that account has been called into question by the leaked diplomatic cables and by allegations by senior Portuguese detectives involved in the hunt. In the diplomatic cable to Washington, marked confidential, US Ambassador Al Hoffman discussed a meeting with his British counterpart Alexander Wykeham Ellis. So he wrote, Madeleine McCann's disappearance generated international media attention with controversy surrounding the Portuguese-led police investigation and the actions of Madeleine's parents. Without delving into the details, Ellis admitted that the British police developed the current evidence against the McCanns, stressing that authorities from both countries were working in cooperation. The media frenzy was to be expected and acceptable as long as government officials keep their comments behind closed doors. This one is very interesting. The cable didn't reveal what evidence had been developed by police in Britain, but Portuguese detectives have previously made a series of startling claims about their involvement during a civil court case in Lisbon. Lawyers for Gonzalo Amaral revealed that a confidential report by a British expert had suggested Mr. McCann, as in Jerry McCann, should be investigated for homicide. So I'm going to read this again. Lawyers for Gonzalo Amaral revealed that a confidential report by a British expert had suggested Mr. McCann should be investigated for homicide. There you have it. Criminal profiler Lee Rainbow of the National Policing Improvement Agency sent a report in June 2007, just a month after 3-year-old Madeleine vanished from her family's rented holiday apartment in Praia da Luz. He wrote, "The family is a lead that should be followed. The contradictions in Gerald McCann's statement might lead us to suspect a homicide. This is a lead that should be investigated." Mr. Amaral's lawyer told the court, Portuguese police had only considered the abduction theory. It was British police who said they must consider homicide as well. The McCanns took legal action against Mr. Amaral in an effort to stop the sale of his book, The Truth of the Lie, in which he claimed they covered up their daughter's death. His former deputy, Tavares Almeida, gave evidence on his behalf and said British and Portuguese police had both concluded Madeleine was dead. He told the court, "We all believe she is dead. It was our conclusion as police professionals, both Portuguese and British police. The McCanns didn't kill her, but they concealed her body." The couple's spokesman, Clarence Mitchell, said, "The cable is a historic note that is more than 3 years old." Subsequently, Kate and Jerry had their arguido status lifted, with the Portuguese authorities making it perfectly clear that there was absolutely no evidence to implicate them in Madeleine's disappearance whatsoever. So as you can tell from this article, it's clear as day that at some point the British police as well suspected them, and there was even advice that this should be seen as homicide and Jerry McCann should be investigated as a suspect of a homicide. I just read it here. It's not coming from me, it's coming from an article. And this is, where is this article from? And this is an article from Daily Mail, And I'm sure that this was before everybody was, you know, made to hush hush, keep quiet and don't say anything negatively about the McCanns. So there is enough evidence, I think, here. So then my question is, what was so important that Jerry did for the government that made the Metropolitan Police to keep quiet about this investigation and not say anything publicly about the suspicions on the parents? What was Jerry McCann involved in that was a state secret, a secret of the state? It can't be just a simple fact that both of them are doctors. It can't be. It's impossible. It's impossible. You don't hear this from other professionals whose children go missing. Okay, give me just a second here. I want to double check something. Okay, this is all fine. I just want to make sure that this live is going okay. All right, let me carry on with the rest. And I'm giving you a lot of food for thought at 2 in the night. Yeah. Okay, let's see. The next article again is from the 14th of December 2010, and I want to see if whatever, I think something is going to repeat itself again. Okay, I'm gonna read it anyway. This is written by Chris Graham, updated 14th of December 2010. The British ambassador confided with the United States ambassador that British police suspected Kate and Jerry McCann. In the latest explosive WikiLeaks revelation, the Spanish daily newspaper El País published news on Tuesday that in a telegram dated September 28, 2007, US ambassador revealed details of a short conversation he had with Alexander Ellis, the newly appointed British ambassador to Lisbon. Ellis didn't go into details about the case, but admitted that it was the British police themselves who found proof which led them to suspect the McCann couple. The United States ambassador also revealed that his British opposite number had told him that the Portuguese and British police were working cooperatively on the investigations. 2 weeks earlier, Portuguese police named the parents as suspects. The McCann spokesman Clarence Mitchell downplayed the information which appeared on the Portuguese and Spanish news as a completely historical note. Portuguese evening news coverage on Monday included commentaries from the former police detective who led the case into the disappearance of Maddie, Gonzalo Amaral. But Gonzalo Amaral said on Monday night that it was strange that it had been necessary for an ambassador to talk about evidence in order to give some veracity to the McCann's alleged involvement. I led the investigation. I know what's there and what needs to be done, and I know that someone is responsible for Madeleine's disappearance. I have no doubt about this. It was not the British police who reached these conclusions. I don't know what evidence the British ambassador was referring to. Now that there were strong indications that the parents were responsible, there were, and that they were collected by the Portuguese police in cooperation with the British police, they were. The former inspector told the press that the leaked information could lead to the reopening of the case. Okay, this one I've already repeated countless of times so far. And now let's go here. A spokesman from the British Embassy told the Algarve resident on Tuesday, "We condemn any unauthorized release of classified information, just as we condemn leaks of classified material in the UK. They can damage national security, are not in the national interest, and may put lives at risk. We have a very strong relationship with the US government. That will continue." According to El País, the conversation between the two diplomats took place in Lisbon 19 days after Jerry and Kate left Portugal after being questioned at Polícia Judiciária headquarters in Portimão. In that interrogation on September the 6th, Madeleine's parents were quizzed as suspects into the accidental death of their daughter and of then having hidden her body. The case was later shelved because of lack of evidence on July 21, 2008, and the arguido status on the McCanns was dropped. One of the clearest examples of Portuguese-British police cooperation was that all of the analysis on material collected from the Praia da Luz apartment and the rental vehicles used by the McCanns and their friends were carried out at a lab in Birmingham and paid for by the British police. Information widely published in the Portuguese press at the time was that information on potential evidence was shared between the Portuguese and British police and discussed jointly. The press also reported on the apparent rivalry between the two police forces investigating the disappearance and criticizing the methods used, rivalries and criticisms which were later downplayed when the British police stated that relations between the two forces had been excellent. Let me get a bit of water. The next article is from Jornal de Noticias, written by Marisa Rodriguez, 15th of December 2010, and again I'll give credit to Joanna Moraes for translation. Leave us in peace was once and for all. The request is made by a former Ocean Club employee in Praia da Luz, Lagos, who has been insistently contacted by a new group of private investigators hired by the McCanns. They've contacted me 3 times by letter, by phone, and recently they came knocking at my door. There were 2 women, one Portuguese, another English, searching for new evidence to reopen the process, but we want to forget what has happened. We will only answer to questions made by the judiciary police, vented the woman in frustration. She's one of the witnesses heard during the investigation to Madeleine's disappearance in May 2007. This is an action that the former coordinator of the Portuguese judiciary police classifies as illegal, even suggesting that those people be identified and heard by the police because they are committing a crime. This revelation comes a day after WikiLeaks, quoted by Spanish newspaper El País, disclosure of the contents of a conversation between the UK and the US ambassadors, with the former affirming that the police of his own country gathered evidence incriminating the parents. That had already been stated by the PJ and figures in the process. It was the conviction of both police forces. However, it had never been assumed from the British side. The only novelty is that for the first time there is someone who is not Portuguese affirming that there were suspicions against the couple, which reinforces the investigation thesis, said Gonzalo Amaral. For the family spokesman, I'm not going to repeat this because I've said this so many times. This is what Clarence Mitchell said about being a historic note. To JN, a source from the Portuguese public relations team hired by the McCanns, Salvador da Cunha's Lift Consulting, confirmed that there is a private investigation team led by a former British policeman, Dave Edgar, trying to gather evidence to reopen the process archived back in July 2008. Yesterday, in a declaration, the Portuguese Attorney General considered that there are no new credible and relevant factors to determine the reopening of the investigation related to Madeleine McCann. Correio da Manhã by Eduardo Damaso, Assistant Director, written on 15th of December 2010, and again thanks to Joanna Moraes for translation. What is the worth of the WikiLeaks disclosure in the Medi case? It is truly worthy. Firstly, in the foreground, it shows that the British police were convinced as to the credibility of the evidence that involved the parents in the disappearance. After that, the matter was then the subject of a conversation at state diplomatic level between England and the US. In other words, and for reasons that remain unclear and which may be related to some work by Jerry McCann for the British government, the issue had a clear political dimension. It was a dossier that was managed with all political care, as can be understood by reference to the secrecy that the matter demanded from the British. Today, one can also realize the lack of credibility in the information provided by the US to the request of the investigation regarding the images collected by a US satellite positioned to the south of Portugal and North Africa. At the time, the Americans confirmed the positioning of the satellite, but said that on the night of the disappearance it was directed towards Africa, and therefore it could not have seen a man carrying a child, which later was said by a witness to be Maddie's father. It's very, what's the word? It's very convenient, isn't it, that on the night that Madeleine disappears, the satellite is pointing to Africa. What are the odds of that? If the McCanns truly wished to reopen the case, now would be a good time. But is it really their convenience to face the facts? It doesn't seem to be. December 15th 2010, political influence demands an inquiry, Correio da Manhã. This is written by Paolo Marcellino, 15th of December 2010, thanks to Joanna Moraes for translation. In that letter of September 28, 2007, the diplomat reported on a conversation with his British counterpart. The former coordinator of the Judiciary Police admits that he felt political pressures during the investigation and is now asking for the creation of a commission of inquiry in the Portuguese Republic Assembly, alleging that political interference in a criminal investigation undermines the rule of law. There was political influence as to the direction of the investigation and in the process archival, said Gonzalo Amaral. The former coordinator of the investigation, removed from it at this final stage, further adds, before the passivity and almost complicity of the government, Portuguese still in office, it is imperative within the Portuguese Republic Assembly to create a commission of inquiry in order to investigate the influences and political maneuvering which has led to the discontinuation of the investigation and to the process archival. At stake is the rule of law. So you see that Gonzalo Amaral, he tried everything he could to keep on going with the investigation, but he was not allowed. As to the disclosure that it would have been the British police to have gathered evidence against the couple, Jerry and Kate McCann, Amaral is peremptory. They didn't gather any evidence. The former coordinator acknowledges the good cooperation of the English police officers sent to the Algarve, but adds that whomever was in England had other ideas. And he gives examples. The English police even held back the statements made by Catherine Gaspar about a potential PDF David Payne in the group on holiday in Luz. And he recalls that David ended up being questioned in England without the PJ's inspectors present. It should also be remembered that the credit information requested by the police never received a reply. And Amaral also says that there are strong suspicions that the FSS lab results in England were manipulated, as in the forensic lab from Birmingham, and that they were well known at the date of the cable. The lab conclusions devalue the evidence that was found in the apartment and in the couple's car by the British dogs specialized in sniffing blood and cadaver odor. They were first offered in May and then provided with some reservation back in August 2007. The dogs, Eddie and Keela, signaled the cadaver odor and found blood traces in the apartment from where Maddie disappeared and inside the trunk of the car rented by the McCanns. Gonzalo Amaral says that there is no evidence of abduction in the process other than the statements of Jane Tanner, who was on holiday with the McCanns. She recognized several people as the perpetrators of the abduction and she lied blatantly, said the former PJ coordinator. I felt pressured, Gonzalo Amaral, former coordinator of the Portuguese Judiciary Police. Correo da Manha, did you feel political pressures during the investigation? I did, yes. I was confronted by way of the National PJ Directory with a question that coincided with the thought of the Attorney General's office at the time that not all processes have a conclusion. How do you explain the political interference? The initiative was started by the McCanns through their family contacts in order to defend themselves. Does the cable disclosure surprise you? No. I only hope that the Portuguese justice hears both ambassadors. They are potential witnesses. A new team of investigators hired by the McCanns and constructed of Portuguese and English elements, headed by a former British policeman, is already in the Algarve, according to TVI. The couple alleged to be interested in reviewing the constant sightings that appear in the process. But Gonzalo Amaral dismisses them. These parents aren't searching for their daughter. They only care about their own image. And he argues that otherwise they would ask for the reopening of the process, as he himself defends. Just a letter. They would only and solely have to pay for the price of the stamp, quips the former coordinator of the investigation. Okay, guys, please let me know in the comments, in the chat, in the live chat, what do you think so far. I'm gonna give you a couple of seconds to write down your comments, and because I just went through half of this, I really need to take a breathing break, and so I'm gonna take a break for a few minutes and then I'll be back. Okay, don't go anywhere. You go and have a break yourself, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. Yeah, and I'll carry on. Hey guys, I'm back. I hope you can hear me. And before I carry on reading the rest, I'm going to read a couple of comments here. Hi Andrew, and thank you for joining. Didn't they have satellite imagery of Iraq's supposed WMD? So even back then the technology was available, so I guess it's possible that there are satellite images. Yes, it is very possible. It's quite possible. I mean, the technology was there for quite some time, but I'm not sure if those satellite images still exist. Considering the high level of involvement here in this investigation and in this case, it kind of makes me think that somebody got their fingers in there and made them disappear. But that's just, you know, my opinion. Another comment from Andrew. Also, didn't Metabo refer to satellite imagery which scared GM a little? I'm not sure. I can't remember. If it did scare Jerry McCann a little, it kind of says something, doesn't it? Intriguing stuff, Kat. Thank you, Andrew. I'm trying. Andrew is saying, if the McCanns have nothing to hide, why on earth would they know why the investigation reopened? That's a very good question. I think any parent who genuinely doesn't have anything to do with their child's disappearance, they never want the investigation to be closed. JD is saying, McCann probably protected by higher officials. Remember, always follow the money. My question is, why did Jerry have to fly back to the UK to get DNA from their home when clearly they had items belonging to Madeleine? That's another very good question. Yeah, especially since there were items there. I don't know, it's a big deal here. It's a big thing here, a big cover-up, in my opinion. Andrew is also saying, I just read that police are probing satellite images of Christian B. Campervan days after she vanished. That's very interesting. I haven't read that. But then if that's the case, I'm sure that there should be satellite images available on that night when the witnesses saw someone carrying a child towards the beach. So, you know, my question then is, how come there is no satellite imagery available for the night when Maddie went missing, yet there is satellite imagery available of Christian B's camper van days after Maddie went missing? So does that mean that a few days later the satellite was not pointing towards Africa anymore? It just doesn't make sense. Okay guys, thank you for the comments, and I'm going to carry on reading. I'm halfway through this. It seems that there is an article here from Sky News blog. Maybe you've read part of it already. I left it on the screen. It's by Martin Brandt on December 15th, 2010. I hear that ex-Madeleine cop Gonzalo Amaral has tried to use the WikiLeaks revelation to get the Portuguese investigation reopened, but he's been rebuffed. He urged the Attorney General in Lisbon to find out exactly what evidence against her parents was developed by British police. I imagine the top law officer, José Pinto Monteiro, already knew what it was all about. He said today that the Portuguese authorities would not respond to opinions, digressions, political analysis, abstract theories and journalistic comment. Only fresh evidence would prompt a reinvestigation, he said. The WikiLeaks website released a diplomatic cable which suggested that British police played an active role in helping the Portuguese police build a case. It was always a bit of a mystery at the time which British police were doing what, though they kept saying they were simply acting as coordinators. The McCann's Portuguese lawyer, Rogério Alves, said the cable was probably referring to the use of sniffer dogs which were sent to examine the family's holiday apartment, hire car, and other things weeks later and before the couple were made official suspects in September. Mr. Alves said, "This information is totally useless. It makes one reference to evidence state prosecutors and the judicial police considered useless. Nobody in a democratic state can be brought to trial on the basis of dogs barking." The dogs were said to have found evidence of blood and a body, but the McCanns were eventually cleared of any involvement. And insist the suspicion around them held up the search for Madeleine and dissuaded potential witnesses from speaking to police. Another flicker. This is from the Blacksmith Bureau, posted by John Blacksmith on Wednesday, 15th of December 2010. Madeleine McCann's disappearance in the south of Portugal in May 2007 generated international media attention with controversies surrounding the Portuguese-led police investigation and the actions of Madeleine's parents. Without delving into the details of the case, Ellis admitted that the British police had developed the current evidence against the McCann parents, and he stressed that authorities from both countries were working cooperatively. He commented that the media frenzy was to be expected and acceptable as long as government officials keep their comments behind closed doors. It has generated international media attention with controversy surrounding the Portuguese-led police investigation and the actions of Madeleine's parents. Note the phrase Portuguese-led. The US ambassador is asking his newly arrived counterpart about the loud and persistent media attacks organized by the McCanns, their family, their public relations team, Hanover Communications, and their wealthy backers following their flight from Portugal. Was it really true that the Portuguese police had lost the plot and turned on the parents without evidence? Or, even worse, had they, as the McCann family claimed, actually fitted up in the family's low-life phraseology, the pair? The accusations were extremely serious. If there was evidence that they were true, then clearly there would be dangerous implications for the Anglo-Portuguese relationship. Then it really would get political, since no nation would willingly allow such a thing to happen to a pair of its innocent citizens. A breakdown in relations between the two countries would be almost certain, and as an ally of both countries, the Americans would need to be briefed on it. But the allegations were not true. The Portuguese had not acted in such a disgraceful way. The claims had been made up by the parents and their team. Ellis, without going into details, gave the ambassador the evidence he needed to report to his government. The claims couldn't be true because the British themselves had seen and worked on the evidence against the parents and were therefore familiar with the facts. Ellis was behaving perfectly correctly. He didn't add any gossip, and he made no comment about the possible innocence or guilt of the parents. As far as the media were concerned, his comments about the frenzy were obviously made in the light of the decision to make the pair arguidos. What had been a dramatic story about a missing child has now moved into the legal arena, and it was clearly imperative that members of the UK government, whatever their personal opinions, made no public comments pro or con and allowed the legal process to take its course. And we already know that's not true, because a lot of the people from the government, they were very vocal in taking the side of the McCanns. The McCann's odious spokesman, we discovered the reasons for his new hairstyle recently, by the way, but we'll save that for another time, claimed that this was just history. It isn't. All along, the McCann team has tried to separate the British side of the investigation from the Portuguese. Rogue cop and rogue police force, safe in the knowledge that the Leicester police cannot issue a formal denial of their claims. The cable has two consequences, one legal and one concerned with the never-ending PR battle. As for the latter, that cynical measure of average opinion, the Mail immediately used the opportunity to air the old suspicions about the parents, since quoting the cable verbatim makes them safe from libel threats. It was notable that in its article, the Mail referred in neutral terms to Gonzalo Amaral for the first time in 2 years. No discredited, no disgraced. On the legal side, this formal confirmation of Gonzalo Amaral's central contention that he was representative of the entire investigation in his line of inquiry continues the gradual demolition of the McCann's libel and associated claims in Portugal. And the ambassador's report confirmed once again the reckless and self-centered dishonesty of the McCann family. If the facts showed that the media claims were untrue and the media claims derived directly from the family and their team, which we know they did, then the conclusion is clear. The McCanns were lying again. Will the slightly crazed attacks on Ambassador Ellis by the Portuguese cease with this evidence that he was countering the lies being spread about their country? We doubt it, just as we regret that when the courts and the evidence are moving in Gonzalo Amaral's favor, he permits himself to be drawn into television speculation about the non-existent British political pressure on the investigation. The assorted conspiracy theories on the Portuguese TV screens, none of whom, unlike Amaral, is fighting a legal battle that could ruin them and can therefore indulge themselves in such games at no cost, continue to encourage him along this doomed path rather than concentrating his expertise on the actions of the Tapas Nine and an evidence-based defense to the claim of the parents. These allies do him no favors. His enemies are noting the blatant factual inaccuracies in his comments on the UK political and legal scene, no doubt with a view to damaging his credibility in court. Otherwise, the cable is just another flicker in the ever-widening pool of light. I don't know what to say about this article. Oh, Andrew is saying here, it is from an article a couple of years ago, I just googled. And Jade is replying, very interesting, Andrew, they got satellite photos from Christian B, but nothing on the night she's supposed to go missing. Exactly, it's all very weird. And it's not only weird, but it's also very convenient, isn't it? Let's move on now to the McCann's statement to the Portuguese media, 15th of December 2010. The speculation that has been published about our daughter's disappearance, as referred to on WikiLeaks, forces us to take the following position. WikiLeaks website has published a summary of an alleged telegram exchange between the USA and UK ambassadors. This summary does not contain any new or relevant facts that will lead us to the discovery of what happened to our daughter. If the mentioned telegram does exist, its contents only tell that the British police developed in September 2007, we believe that to be the date of the correspondence exchange, information regarding our responsibility in the disappearance of our daughter. We recall that on that date, the team coordinated by Gonzalo Amaral was still investigating the case, having produced a report incriminating both of us. That report was not supported by evidence that validated his allegations, so due to the absence of any incriminating evidence about us, the case was filed after 8 months of further investigation. Presumably, if any correspondence summarized by WikiLeaks does exist, it is based on the circumstances that arose in the investigation at that time, since we do not know that there has been any further investigation besides the one that we all know about, and in the process there isn't any information to the contrary. Once again, the ex-inspector Gonzalo Amaral has seized the opening given by the Portuguese media for his thesis, producing deeply hurtful insinuations and invocating the investigation's defects on an investigation that he coordinated and didn't achieve any useful results for our daughter. These speculations are periodically brought to public opinion by that former employee of the PJ, accompanied by threats to reopen the case on his own initiative. When he claims publicly that he knows what needs to be done on the investigation, and if what needs to be done is the investigation of facts, documents, data, or real and concrete information that can lead to Madeleine's whereabouts, discovery, or even the reason for her disappearance, he has the obligation to present it to the process to reopen the investigation, in which we are most interested. We are aware that Madeleine's disappearance is an inexhaustible source of enrichment to Gonzalo Amaral by means of false accusations, deeply offensive and harmful to the investigation itself. So we appeal to journalists' critical sense to disentangle what is journalistic information and what is speculation and the dubious means to an easy profit. Go figure. Of course they are going to carry on discrediting Gonzalo Amaral, and of course now they will highlight that media is publishing these articles for money, as if they are not always in the media eye, doing PR campaigns, doing photo shoots for money as well. Great, great. Another article from Correio da Manhã, 16th of December 2010, English may have other evidence. English suspected of withholding relevant evidence. Gonzalo Amaral believes that the British police did not disclose all they have found to the PJ. Gonzalo Amaral, former coordinator, believes that the British police did not disclose everything regarding the McCanns and the suspicion of PDF of their friend Payne. The British ambassador in Lisbon admitted that the police of his country found incriminating evidence against the McCanns, as was revealed by WikiLeaks. Gonzalo Amaral admits that it could have been omitted. It's very strange, for example, that they did not send us the information relative to the suspicion of PDF referring to David Payne, an element of the Tapas group in Praia da Luz in the Algarve in May 2007. Similarly, the British police always told the PJ in the requests made that there was nothing relevant as to the credit card transactions made by Maddie's parents or by the group of friends, nor in relation to Kate and Jerry's relationship or to the missing child clinical records, for example. So if there was nothing relevant, why don't just give them the credit card transactions and the clinical records, right? If there is nothing there, the PJ coordinator does not believe that the evidence mentioned by the UK ambassador with his US counterpart had anything to do with the fact that the dogs, which had detected blood and cadaver odor in the trunk of the car rented by the McCanns, were British. Even because on September 28, the day the ambassador's conversation took place, the English lab had already stated that the blood evidence gathered did not belong to Maddie. Therefore, the evidence that Alice makes reference to must be something else, which the British police failed to deliver to the judiciary. For Amaral, the most probable hypothesis has to do with Payne. In Mallorca, 2 summers before, he had rubbed his nipple and put his finger in his mouth while looking at Maddie, suggesting a sexual act, asking Jerry if his daughter would do that. And Gonzalo Amaral mentions this in his book as well, which is just disgusting. Those gestures were witnessed by a British doctor who denounced them to the British police in May 16, 2007. The PJ was only informed in October. And when Paolo Rebello's team went to England with questions for the group, David Payne was the only one who was heard by the English police without the presence of the PJ. Payne was the last person known, beside the parents, to see Maddie alive. The Englishman, over whom a suspicion of PDF was raised, enjoyed giving baths to the children. Gonzalo Amaral told CM that he's gathering new indicia that provide for the reopening of the investigation. Amaral raises doubts as to the DNA results obtained by the English lab. Friday, 17th of November 2010. This month marks our 4th Christmas without Madeleine. We hope with all our hearts that wherever she is safe and well, and whoever may be with her is treating her with the love and respect she so deserves. Okay, this is a letter from Kate and Jerry. Yeah, oh, find Madeleine updates in December, so yeah, okay. Their wording is so very strange. We would like to thank all of our supporters for staying at our side in spite of the injustices that we continue to be subjected to. Yeah, of course, victimize yourselves. Madeleine is the person who suffers most from all of this injustice. It is this fact alone which causes us the most distress. It's absolutely heartbreaking. The WikiLeaks news this week has led to the repetition of many unfounded allegations and smears both in the UK and in Portugal in particular. This has been seized on as an opportunity by those who wish to compound our suffering and hamper our efforts, including the very person who was entrusted with finding our daughter. Those who could help Madeleine but chose to do nothing are also complicit in this injustice. Without the love and help from so many good people around the world, we would not be able to find the strength to continue the fight to find our daughter. Thank you to all those who have signed our petition calling on the UK and Portuguese governments to conduct an independent review of Madeleine's case. The petition is still ongoing. If you haven't signed and would like to further the search for Madeleine, please sign our online petition or sign a paper petition form. The letter can be downloaded from the website and distributed to shops, post offices, etc. and returned to us. Along with our family, we would like to thank everyone who has sent us Christmas cards, letters, donations and gifts at this difficult time of year. It's impossible to find enough positive words to describe such kindness or the hugely important and heartwarming effect it has on us. Without any doubt, it helps us immensely and we are incredibly grateful. We wish you all a Merry Christmas and very happy, healthy and positive 2011. Please remember to spare a thought and a prayer for all the children who will not be with their families this Christmas. Thank you, Kate and Jerry. Okay. Moving on to the next one. McCann's fury over Wikislur News of the World, December 19, 2010. Let me see if maybe it's another repetition. Okay, this is the diplomatic cable. Yesterday, the McCann said the WikiLeaks report has led to the repetition of many unfounded allegations and smears both in the UK and in Portugal in particular. And I'm going to move to the next because this is already, I've already read it in their statement, so there's no point in repeating it again. Another article, 19th of December by Sunday Express. Let's see if there is anything new here. Okay, there are a couple of bits. So Kate and Jerry McCann have reacted angrily to revelations by WikiLeaks. In a statement on their Find Madeleine website, they said the WikiLeaks news this week has led to the repetition of many unfounded smears. The couple are locked in a bitter civil dispute with former Portuguese police chief Gonçalo Amaral over claims he made in his book. Earlier this year, the McCanns met Home Secretary Theresa May and were hoping to persuade her to order a review of all the known evidence, but the attempt was unsuccessful. Their statement adds, those who could help Madeleine but choose to do nothing are also complicit in this injustice. Madeleine is the person who suffers most from all of this injustice. It is that fact alone which causes us the most distress. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Okay. 19th of December 2010, Dirt by Correo de Mania. Thanks to Astro for translation. WikiLeaks had drilled through the USA security system and has been publishing thousands of documents. One of them tells us what we already knew. The English ambassador reported that the English police obtained evidence that Maddie's parents were involved, and that for state reasons, that fact had been simply hidden from the Portuguese justice. The couple's spokesman did not deny it. He merely stated that this issue was history. It didn't matter. When one is protected, such arrogance is permitted. Nonetheless, it is also true that protection by the powerful serves the powerful, but will never be able to hide the truth, which, as we all know, always surfaces. I would really like to believe that this is true, but I'm not sure in this case it will ever surface. And the truth is, here again, vigorous, without mercy, without pity for those who have always wanted to see a moral end to this story. from pitiful journalists who have refused to publish any other thesis apart from the truth that was sold and produced before time. The little girl was abducted. End of. Everything else was silliness and bad taste by the PJ and those who have always understood how the famous abduction was impossible. And that silliness was accepted by the public ministry that ordered the process to be shelved. The investigation interrupted, the couple under protection, the formal judicial truth hacked off without scruples. WikiLeaks tells us that the whole thing was well secured by the English government after all, and who knows where the evidence is being kept. The truth is that the criminal investigation cannot live on prejudice. To demonstrate the nexus of causality between the victim and the perpetrator is, under any circumstance, the sole motivation that presides over police work. There is no politics, there is no private interest or of any other kind that can override the search for the truth. This works in Portugal, and every year parents kill children and children kill parents. Nevertheless, they are not protected by any specific government, neither in Portugal nor in any other country. Therefore, they are subject to the superior decision of the courts. That was not the case of the unfortunate English child, whose disappearance remains unsolved due to the protection that surrounded her dear parents, who, by the way, have always been treated in an excellent way in Portugal, regardless of the suspicions that hung over them, from the media campaigns until the English provocation that insulted Portugal in the name of the parents' dignity. How much did that campaign cost? Maybe there is another WikiLeaks cable that informs us about the dirt concerning this subject that we still have to learn. I'm going to agree with him, everything he said here, apart from the fact that the truth always surfaces. Like I said, I don't believe in this case it will ever surface. There's too much at play here, I think. Alright, we are almost to the end of this. The yo-yo of popularity, 21st of December 2010. This is by Daily Mail, by Peter McKay. Did I say the date? 21st of December. At the same time, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, toast of the fashionable left, suffers a drop in his share value after new reports about his seedy sexual activities. It's reported that he and his chief supporter at The Guardian are not on speakers. Even the McCanns, who got newspapers to apologize for doubting what they said about their missing daughter Madeleine, are on the down public esteem escalator after it was reported that British police helped Portuguese colleagues build a case against them. In the instant world of internet, Facebook and Twitter commentary, faithfully repeated by the press and TV, you are up one moment and down the next, on a roller coaster, as everyone always says when questioned on TV about how they feel. This was nothing interesting, really. And there is another article here, McCann's angry at mayors fueled by WikiLeaks files, from Leicester Mercury, but I'm going to check here if I don't want to repeat again what I've already said, so I'm just gonna see if there's any point in me reading this. So I'm just going to point out from the petition that the McCanns were asking the public to sign. It says here that more than 37,000 people signed their online petition calling on the UK and Portuguese governments to conduct an independent review into the evidence collected during the search for Madeleine. At that time in 2010, the Find Madeleine Fund, set up by the McCanns to help search for their missing daughter, stood at £470,000 at the end of March, according to accounts published at Companies House. Since then, Mr. and Mrs. McCann signed a deal to write a book about Madeleine's disappearance, with all proceeds going to the fund. A book about Madeleine's disappearance, more like about Kit and Jerry McCann. Let's be honest. Last year, the fund paid for the private investigators a telephone hotline for public information and the McCann's legal battle to ban a book about what happened to Madeleine by former Portuguese detective Gonzalo Amaral. And it just sounds ridiculous, because I cannot believe for the life of me that they would think it's appropriate for them to use Madeleine's fund for a legal battle against Gonzalo Amaral for a book that he published. It's just beyond me. I mean, that fund was supposed to help in the search for Madeleine, but not to help them pay for legal battles against others. Anyway, a Home Office spokesperson said the government wants to ensure everything feasible is being done to progress the search for Madeleine, of course. The British authorities will maintain a dialogue with the Portuguese and continue to liaise with Madeleine's family on any developments. Rubbish article, in my opinion. Internet revelations are deeply hurtful, said the McCanns, 24th of December 2010. So this is Christmas Eve. This is by the Algarve resident, by Daisy Sampson. Kate and Jerry McCann have issued a scathing response to the WikiLeaks claims that the British ambassador confided. In a statement to the Algarve resident, the couple said that the alleged telegram about the conversation does not contain any new or relevant facts that will lead us to the discovery of what happened to our daughter. In response to claims by Gonzalo Amaral that he knows what needs to be done in the investigation, the McCann said, if what needs to be done is the investigation of facts, documents, data, or real and concrete information that can lead to Madeleine's whereabouts, discovery, or even the reason for her disappearance, he has the obligation to present it to the process to reopen the investigation. I'm not going to carry on reading the rest because I've already read this. So we got to the end of it, and with thanks to Nigel at McCann Files. And again, I'm going to show you. So I took all of this information from Jerry McCann's blogs.co.uk, which I'm going to emphasize again, this site does not belong to the McCanns. I think that it would be beneficial for you guys to have a look at this website because it contains a lot of information. So just to show you, I'm going to McCann Files home and look at this. Look at all of these files on here. There was a lot of time put into creating this website and adding everything on here. There's a lot. So I think that it's really valuable to go through this, or at least have a look, double check. And also I want to show you, since I'm sharing the screen, yeah, there is one last thing which I want to show you. So about this WikiLeaks cable, this has also been mentioned in the Wikipedia page for the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, which I found very strange when I looked on it, because as far as I remember, this wasn't mentioned before in this Wikipedia page. And I think that you guys can remember as well that there were some edits and some things which were taken from the Wikipedia article on the Madeleine McCann disappearance. So I found it very curious that I was actually able to find the mention of this WikiLeaks cable on there. And I'm going to how am I gonna do this? Okay, I'm gonna go here and look for Madeleine McCann, so we are on the same tab. Okay, Wikipedia, this is Wikipedia. I'm going to search for WikiLeaks. There you go, it's here in the article. On 28th of September 2007, according to a diplomatic cable published by WikiLeaks, and the cable said, it's here. I think that this article was changed again somehow. I'm not, can I see, let's see if I can past review. Oh, I didn't know I can do that. Okay, past revision. Let's see, past revision. View history. Let's just see if it tells us something. So the latest edit on this was on 25th of September 2023. And Operation Grange, a visual edit, German investigations, something else. I've never looked at this. It's very interesting. I didn't know you can do that. Is there anything older? Can I see 500? I would like to oldest. Oldest from 2007. Okay, oldest. I'm curious. Seventh of May, day 101. Typo in header. Well, I don't know. It might take me some more time to have a look at this, because there's a lot of edits on here. Okay, never mind. So you can see, so I showed you. Let me go back. WikiLeaks. It's here, right, on Wikipedia. Then also there is another thing which I want to show you, which again I found very interesting, because we all know, or if you've listened and watched my previous videos, we already know that there were a lot of things taken down from the Google search engine in regards to Madeleine McCann, specifically people who were talking negatively and who were coming up with their own theories against the McCanns and so on and so forth. And I found it interesting that I was able to find these things on Google when I searched on Google, and I'm going to show you that. So I go on Google and I'm going to search here. What did I search? Yeah, this is the one I searched. I still have it here, see? WikiLeaks McCanns. You can see that all of these news articles are on here, which I found very interesting. I didn't expect to find them on here. Before, it was very hard to find these things, you know, and I needed to, when I was doing my research in depth, I really needed to use other search engine, DuckDuckGo, I think it was called, and the Wayback Machine to pull up articles which have been removed. And so I was very surprised to see these. And you can see here, 13th of December 2010, The Guardian, WikiLeaks cables. This is the one where I wanted to go on, wikileaks.org, talk Madeleine McCann, final Portuguese police, but the link doesn't work. It's giving me this. Any link from WikiLeaks is giving me this error. Then we have another one from 12th of April 2012, even British police developed evidence against McCann's. Then another one from WikiLeaks, 21st of July 2008. This one doesn't work either. Then we have another one, 13th of December 2010, Daily Mail, British police developed evidence. Telegraph.co.uk, 14th of December 2010, WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks cables, 14th of December 2010, from bbc.co.uk. Another one from Daily Record. Some results may have been removed under data protection law in Europe. I don't know what's that all about. The Times. See, The Times UK, Mirror UK. WordPress.com. Script. Belfast Telegraph. Oh, sorry, this is not the one. Yeah, that's about it. So yeah, there is right. So we finished finally. What do you guys think of everything that I've read? I mean, this was mind-blowing to me, and these were like bombshell information which I've never came across. I just came across them today earlier on, and I said I have to share them. Okay, JD is saying here, question Cat, what was the total amount Madeleine fund that was raised? I will just Google that right now. Last time I checked, I think if I remember correctly, it was around 13 million pounds that the Madeleine fund raised, but let me have a look at the latest. Let me Google this. Madeleine McCann fund 2023 total amount. Right, should I share I'll share the screen with you. Hold on a second. Let me see, how do I share the screen? Oh, present, share screen. Okay, share. Oh, I hate these things. How much has the investigation cost? Okay, 7th of June 2023. The Home Office has given the Metropolitan Police an additional £110,000 to fund their hunt for Madeleine. And where is the figure? Operation Grange has received around £13.1 million in total financing. Is there another one? Another article from 10th of January 2023 from the Steeple Times. Right, let's see this one. The murky money of Madeleine McCann, yet more funds donated by public disgracefully wasted by Madeleine's fund. In the wake of yet more murky money being disgracefully wasted, Matthew Steeples reminds that over £14 million has been spent over 16 years to find nothing, nada, nothing. Now, in the 16 years since, Jerry and Kay McCann have garnered at least 14 million in public resources, which has mostly been spent by the Metropolitan Police and sit on a fund of money donated by the kind-hearted public that still amounts to £970,000 in cash and assets. This is like a business transaction. This is just like a business in assets. Latest accounts show just 3,498 in income from sales of the bargain basement bag of bilge book Madeleine in the previous year. Now, with the news this morning in the Mail Online that Madeleine's fund has paid out £6,995 in murky money towards legal costs relating to the McCann's failed libel action against the Portuguese detective Gonzalo Amaral, isn't it jolly well timed that this ridiculous charade seeking a child who'll likely never be found was just finally brought to a close? This wasteful misallocation of resources must end, and it must end now. So this is the let's see this one from 1st of May 2023, because I'm still not clear on this. Oh, I opened it separately. So Madeleine McCann's parents saved nearly £1 million to continue search if police call off probe. Kate and Jerry McCann have £970,000, an increase of nearly £40,000 in the past financial year, according to latest accounts filed with Companies House. The vast sum is made up of donations from celebrities and the public, plus royalties from Kate's best-selling book about the case. The Metropolitan Police has applied to Home Office for more cash to keep its Operation Grange probe running. But the 12-year investigation has already received 13 millions of taxpayers' cash without cracking the case. The not-for-profit Madeleine's Fund boasts £970,000. So that's that. Apparently they still have £1 million in... Oh, I didn't share the screen, did I? Oh, great. Never mind. I'm gonna do it again now, just so you can see. This is one of the articles from the Daily Star. So, as it turns out, the search for Madeleine cost around £14 million over all of these years, and in Madeleine McCann's fund, with donations and everything else, they still have about £1 million, I mean £970,000, and they spend a lot of money on the libel against Gonzalo Amaral. There were a couple of hundreds of thousands of pounds spent. I remember reading about it, and I also remember reading that the judge that it was requested of Kate and Jerry McCann to pay Amaral back 200,000 or 300,000. And so where do you think they got the money from? From Madeleine's fund, of course. They are getting, it's ridiculous, and it's also interesting because they are getting these donations from people who, you know, are trying to support them and in the search for Madeleine, really, and they are wasting all of this money on libels. It's ridiculous. Total amount. So I'm going to share the screen again with you. Okay. If you have a look here on this, on here, I'm not going to open the article, but just to show you the headline here. I mean the text here. In total, so the question is where the 2 million you gave to find Madeleine McCann has gone. This is from 2009. In total, the fund received 1.85 million in its first 10 months and earned 33,000 pounds in interest. It spent 850,000 in the search for Madeleine. But I'm not able to find any information as to the total. Oh my god, it's 3:30 already. Oh, it's so late. Okay guys, if you have any more questions, if you can put them in the live chat, otherwise I'm gonna end this live because it's very late. And I also finished what I wanted to show you. As you can see, I'm in my pajama, in my robe. Couple of questions before I go. And I don't know when I'm doing the next live. I don't know. Hopefully I can give you some notice. Okay, JD saying get some rest, cat. Good night and see you on the next live. Thank you, JD, and thank you so much for joining. And thank you everyone for joining tonight. And have a good rest, everyone. Good night. And take care, guys. Stay safe. And I will see you in the next live. Bye.